What's going on, guys? Welcome to this video. Today we're going to talk about this lens. This is the Sigma 24-70 F2.8 and I'm going to go over my experience with it as well as advantages and disadvantages and why I think that this might be the most important lens you'll ever own. Now I know that that is a really big statement, but I'm saying that because this lens basically lives on my camera body probably 80% of the time, and I use it for all kinds of scenarios, situations, jobs. If it's street photography, urban photography, cityscapes, product photography, food photography, social media photography, you name it, I'll probably use this lens for it. Now there are situations where I use other lenses, of course, but for the most part, this is the moneymaker. Now keep in mind, I'm not talking specifically only about the Sigma lens, but all 24-70 f2.8 lenses that are out there. There are manufacturers like Canon, Sigma, Tamron, Sony, Nikon. Basically all brands offer this lens, and depending on what you are shooting, you should be able to get your hands on one pretty easily. Now most manufacturers are producing the 2.8 version as well as an f4 version, and the 2.8 version is a little bit more expensive than the f4 version for obvious reasons. So here are some photos I took with this lens. As you can see, these are all kinds of different photos, which brings us to number one and probably also the biggest advantage of this lens, which is the versatility. Now, because you are covering the focal lengths from 24mm all the way up to 70mm, you are able to get all kinds of different photographs and perspectives without having to change your lenses. I personally have found myself multiple times in a situation where I wish I would have had a different focal length with me when I had a prime lens on my camera body, and I didn't have one with me and lost out on a shot that I had in my head and I really wanted to take, but I had to come back to it because I didn't have that focal length I needed with me. This could be, for example, I have a 50mm lens on my camera body right now. I'm going around taking photos and I am in, for example, a tunnel or building, and I feel like I need a wider focal length, for example 24mm, to get a little more of the surrounding area or of the architecture to create a more interesting image. Now in this scenario, the 24-70 would have given me a little more freedom and flexibility to get the shot that I'm looking for without having the fear in my head that, oh man, I'm not gonna be able to get this shot now because I'm stuck with the focal length of, for this example, 50mm. Now, of course, you can turn this scenario around as well. Let's say I have a 24mm prime lens on my camera body and I want to capture something that's further away. And now I'm stuck with the wide angle lens and can't reach that subject. Now, of course, I can take that photo and then in post I can crop in, but that brings a lot of image quality loss with it, because the further you crop into the photo, the more quality you lose. I mean, unless you have like a 50 megapixel or even a 100 megapixel camera where you can get away with cropping in pretty far. But for the vast majority of us, that's probably not the case. Let's talk about another factor of the 24-70 f2.8. Now, these typically are a little bigger and heavier than most prime lenses, which is not the point or the positive point that I wanted to get to, but I'll get to it now. It might be a little bigger and it might be a little heavier, but therefore you only carrying around this one lens and not 3, 4, 5, or 6 prime lenses that you now have to store somewhere, if it's in your camera bag or pockets. Now carrying only this with me takes up way less space than having to carry all these lenses, and now I can bring other stuff. For example, for me that would be my microphone or drone or gimbal, and for you it might be something different depending what you are bringing on your shoots. Now the final positive aspect that I want to add to this is that this lens comes with an aperture of 2.8. Now yes, this might be not as good as a prime lens, which they come sometimes in an aperture of f1.8 or f1.4 or sometimes even f1.2. But an f2.8 still gives you the ability to get great results, not only in low light situations, but also gives you a more shallow depth of field in portraits or product photography or whatever you want to use it for. Now, if you're comparing this lens with other zoom lenses, for example, the f4 option, or lenses that have a variable aperture, for example, 3.5 to 5.6 aperture. So when you basically start out at the focal length of 24 millimeters, you have a 3.5, and once you zoom into 70 millimeters or higher, depending on the lens, you'll get up to an aperture of 5.6. Those lenses now, they don't give you that much of a bokeh or bokeh, or let's say shallow depth of field, that give you a certain look that you're going for. Now, you do still have the versatility of zooming with these lenses, but you definitely sacrifice on the lower aperture of 2.8 and therefore will not have as great of a performance when it comes to low light, as well as the depth of field that you can create with the 2.8 lens. Now, the f2.8 version is definitely more geared towards professional use because they are built a little more hefty. The glass that they use for those lenses are definitely a little better quality, and you pay what you get for in that sense. Now, considering all these factors is exactly the reason why this might be the most important lens in your camera bag. Now, we talked about all the good things and advantages of this lens. Now, every piece of equipment also comes with negative aspects. Now, I want to share two with you that I think are the most important ones. Number one being, yes, you only get an aperture of 2.8, which in that scenario, prime lenses will definitely deliver a little more because you can get them in f1.8 or f1.4 and sometimes even f1.2. So in that case, it definitely is, or there definitely is a difference, and you have to weigh and see what is it more that they are looking for and what are you trying to use your lenses or this specific lens for. And number two is, or can be, sharpness. Now, a lot of prime lenses, especially ones that are more on the higher end, will deliver sharper and more crisp images. Now, that doesn't mean that this 24-70 or any other 24-70 lenses are not sharp, but the prime lenses sometimes, or a lot of the time actually, can create an even sharper image. Now, some people are looking for that, and some people are not bothered by it. Me, for example, I want my photo to be in focus, I want it to be sharp, but if I, for example, take a photo of somebody, I don't need my photos to be so sharp that I can see into your pores. I just want the person to be in focus, and it should be reasonably sharp. Now, I know there are people that want their photos as sharp as possible, but for me personally, there has never been a problem with this or other zoom lenses that I own. They were always plenty sharp. Now, with either one, prime lens or zoom, you can always get a bad copy that is not as sharp as it could be, and a lot of the time it's just bad luck if you get a bad copy. But the good thing is you can always try to get into contact with the manufacturer and see if you can exchange the lens or if they can repair the lens for you. So in my time as a photographer, I tried out both ways. I strictly shot on prime lenses for a certain amount of time and also shot on zoom lenses. And for me right now, the way to go is zoom lenses, and for you that might be different. Me personally, I like to carry around 3 lenses, and that gives me the ability to cover all the way from 16mm up to 200mm, and that just works for me right now. And for you, that might be something different. You gotta find the tools that get the job done for you. And if that's a prime lens, it's a prime lens. If it's a zoom, it's a zoom. But I am assuming if you are watching this video, you are interested in zoom lenses like the 24-70 F2.8. So I hope I was able to give you a little bit of a breakdown when it comes to advantages and disadvantages about the 24-70 F2.8 of any manufacturer. And maybe it helps you make your decision if this is the right lens for you. If that is the case, then making this video was definitely worth it. If you have other questions, put them down in the comments below. If it's about this lens or any other lenses, I would love to chat with you about it. Maybe I can give you 1 or 2 tips or help you out with any of the questions that you have about them. And that brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.